Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya. In this class, we shall start discussing about the new topic, that is center-state relations, a very important topic. So already with respect to few aspects, we have seen the relationship between the center and the state. That is, we have discussed with respect to legislative relations. So in legislative relations, what did we learn? We have learned that our constitution provides three types of lists under 7th schedule. Under 7th schedule. So which are the three lists? List 1, list 2 and list 3. So we have seen that list 1 is also called as central list, list 2 is also called as state list, and list 3 is also called as concurrent list. Central list or union list, I'll call it as union list, state list and concurrent list. So an example of a subject under list 1 is defense. Example of a subject under state list is health. Example of a subject under concurrent list is education. So in our previous discussions, we have seen that what center can make laws on union list. Similarly, states can make law on state list, and both center as well as states can make law on concurrent list. So this is what we have discussed with respect to legislative relations between the center and the state. And when it comes to dispute with respect to the center and state law with respect to a subject on concurrent list, which one will prevail? Center's law will prevail. So this is all. This is the understanding that we have as far as legislative relationship between the center and the states is concerned. In this topic, we will be similarly discussing about the relationship between the center and state with respect to executive. Okay, what exactly is executive? That is implementation of the law and all. We will be seeing later on. Okay, and also the relationship between the center and the state with respect to financial matters. When it comes to judiciary, we say that judiciary, with respect to judiciary, powers are not divided between the center and the states. That's why we call it as judiciary is integrated. So what does integrated judiciary mean? So both Supreme Court and High Court can enforce both central laws as well as state laws. So what does it indicate? So let us assume center makes a law on a subject called as defense, or let us assume it makes a law on banking. So I'll call law on banking. Similarly, let us assume Karnataka has made a law on which subject? Let us assume health. Okay, health. So let us call it as law 2. So let this be law 1 and law 2. So law 1 and on banking made by center, law 2 on health made by Karnataka state. Now when it comes to, now someone is not following this law properly, someone is not following the banking law properly, someone is not following the health law properly. So where can we go for a resolution? We can go to, so when it comes to, if somebody is not following center's banking law, then where we can go? We can go to either Supreme Court or we can go to High Court. Supreme Court can enforce central laws as well as state laws. Similarly, High Court can enforce both central laws as well as state laws. So now this central law can be enforced by both Supreme Court as well as High Court. Similarly, if someone is not following or violating the law on health made by Karnataka, then if somebody wants to go to court, so where can he go? Can he go only to High Court or he can go to Supreme Court as well? So here also aggrieved person can go to both Supreme Court as well as High Court. So from this example, what we understand is, so Supreme Court can enforce state laws, High Court can also enforce state laws. Supreme Court can enforce central laws, High Court can also enforce central laws. So it means in judiciary, there is no division of work, there is no division of power. Judiciary is integrated. Okay. So one by one, we shall start discussing. So at the superficial level, we just discussed about the background with respect to legislative relations. Subsequently, we will be discussing about financial as well as executive relations. Okay. Executive relations. Next, legislative relations. legislative relations. So article number 245 to 255 in part 11 of the constitution, it discusses about the legislative relations. Now next question that arises, do we need to memorize these articles, that is article number 245 to 255, similar to how we memorize the fundamental rights and DPSPs and all? No, not required. These article numbers are not important, just we need to focus on the concept. If we are able to comprehend the concept, that would be sufficient. So those article numbers are not important. So legislative powers have been divided between the center and the states. Already we had discussion, but again once more we shall have a we shall revisit them. With respect to territory and with respect to subjects. So what does it mean with respect to territory? Okay. Now, when we say with respect to territory, now whatever the law the center makes, so this central law will be applicable. This central law will be applicable to whole of India, or any part of it. Let us assume any part of it. So parliamentary legislation, okay, with respect to territory and subjects. So whatever the law the center makes, it will be applicable to whole of India or some part of it. So later on we shall see. So what is territorial extent of central law? Here, whole or any part of the territory, either the whole of India or some part of it. Next, when it comes to states, now let us assume Karnataka state makes a law. So this law will be applicable to which all portion? To entire Karnataka, only to Karnataka, or some part of Karnataka. So see here, Parliament, whole or any part of the territory, whenever the state legislature makes a law, so this will be applicable to whole or part of state. Okay, part of state. Next, forget about this, just ignore this part. Next, Parliament has the power to make extraterritorial legislation. What does it mean? Now, some laws of India should be applicable in other countries as well. For example, so here we have USA. Okay, somewhere here we have okay, USA. So we want to make a law which is applicable in USA. What does it mean? Let us assume a person of India has gone to USA. Okay, let us call this person as person 1. So whether this person's earnings should be taxed or not. Okay, if it should be taxed, then we have to make a law relating to this, okay, for taxation and all. So who can make the law? Whether state government is empowered to make such a law? No, state government is not empowered to make such a law. Only Parliament, center is empowered to make such a law. So the laws which have been made by India and which are applicable outside India, we call them as extraterritorial legislation. So who has the power of extraterritorial legislation? Only center has the power for extraterritorial legislation. Okay, extraterritorial legislation. Okay. Next, parliamentary legislation in the state field. So we have already seen at the superficial level 1 or 2 examples wherein Parliament can legislate in the state field. Normally when it comes to list 2, normally when it comes to list 2, normally when it comes to list 2, only states can make law. Okay, normally only states, normally. Okay, but sometimes in exceptional situations, Parliament can also make laws on the state subject. So again, that is that indicates about the legislative relationship between the center and the state. Next, center's control over state legislation. We'll see that how the legislation which is being brought by the state can be controlled by the center. Okay, can be controlled by the center. So all these detailed descriptions are given in article number 245 to 255, and we'll be discussing in detail later on. Okay, later on. Next, restrictions on the plenary territorial jurisdiction. Parliamentary law not applicable. So what does it mean? So, okay. Now in India, there are few places there are few places. So which are those places? I'll just take an example. Okay. Now, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, or Daman and Diu. So these are few union territories. Okay, these are few union territories. So let us take Lakshadweep as an example, which is present over here. So this is Lakshadweep. So here we have some special provisions. What are these special provisions? We have already seen whatever the law the parliament makes, it applies to entire India. It applies to entire India, including Lakshadweep. But here, when it comes to Lakshadweep, in our discussion, to make it easier, I have taken just Lakshadweep as an example, but the same applies to Andaman and Nicobar Island, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, and Daman and Diu. So here, when it comes to Lakshadweep, President, P indicates President. President has power to make regulations. President has special power to make regulations with respect to Lakshadweep. What are those regulations? So, those regulations are special regulations or special law which is meant for Lakshadweep. So whatever the law the parliament has made, okay, may not apply to Lakshadweep. So who will specify that a particular law will not apply to Lakshadweep? President has that power. So we shall take an example. So parliament will make a law. Called as Law 1. So naturally, when law is made by parliament, it applies to entire India. But now president can say, what he will say? He says that Law 1 will not apply to Lakshadweep. Or apply with modifications. So who has this power? President has this power. Okay, President has this power. So ordinarily, the parliamentary law which has been made, it applies to the whole of India, but President can specify that such a law will not be applicable to few areas like Lakshadweep and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Even if they apply, they should be applied with few modifications. So President has this power. Okay, President has this power. Similarly, governor is empowered to direct that a parliamentary act does not apply to scheduled area. So we need to understand about scheduled area. So in few states of India, so which are those states and all, we will be discussing later on. So in few states of India, we have some areas called as scheduled areas. So let us assume in Karnataka we have a scheduled area. So this is, let us assume this is scheduled area. Next, in Madhya Pradesh somewhere we have scheduled area. Next, in Rajasthan somewhere we have scheduled area. Okay. Next, similarly, we have tribal areas. Okay. Tribal areas are present only in 4 states. So which are those 4 states? So one is Assam tribal area. Next, we have in Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Tripura. So these 4 states, they have tribal areas. Okay, tribal areas. So already we have seen. So whatever the law parliament makes, it applies to entire India. The law made by parliament will apply to entire India. But now someone will specify that the law, let us assume this law is Law 1. Okay. So the Law 1 which has been made by parliament will apply to entire India. But someone will specify that this law will not apply to scheduled area which is present in Rajasthan. It will not apply to scheduled area which is present in Madhya Pradesh. It will not apply to scheduled area which is present in Karnataka. So who has this power to specify that the law made of parliament is not applicable to the scheduled areas? Very important. So here governor is empowered. Okay. So here I'll take an example. Karnataka governor will say that Law 1 will not be applicable to scheduled area in Karnataka. Similarly, Madhya Pradesh governor will say that Law 1 will not apply to scheduled area in Madhya Pradesh. So this power is enjoyed by governor. So when it comes to scheduled area, governor is empowered to state that a parliamentary act is not applicable to scheduled area. X indicate not applicable, or even if it is applicable, then it should be applied with certain specified modifications. Okay, it should be applied with modifications. So governor is empowered. Next, when it comes to tribal area, so similarly, there is who can specify that the act of parliament will not apply with, or apply with modifications? When it comes to Assam, governor is empowered. Governor is empowered to state that the law made by parliament is not applicable to Assam or is applicable with certain modifications. Okay, modifications. But when it comes to tribal areas in Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram, when it comes to tribal areas in Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram, who has the power to specify? President has the power to specify that the law made by parliament will not be applicable to Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram, or it will be applicable with certain modifications. Okay, so what did we understand at the superficial level? When it comes to scheduled area, who has the power? Governor is empowered. When it comes to tribal area in Assam, it is governor. When it comes to tribal areas in Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram, it is president. Okay, it's president. And when it comes to what regulations related to Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, then it is president. Okay, it is president. So very important. Next, already we have seen distribution of legislative subjects. So list one, it consists of somewhere close to 100 subjects. So who can make laws? Only center can make laws. Okay, so on union list, somewhere there are close to 100 subjects. Only center can make laws. So which are those subjects? So few of the subjects I have listed here. Defense is a central subject. Banking is a central subject. Foreign affairs is a central subject. Currency is a central subject. Atomic energy is a central subject. So insurance is a central subject. Communication, interstate trade and commerce, census, audit. So do we need to memorize all the 100 subjects which are present in the union list? So practically it is impossible. Need not memorize. But at least the subjects which I have mentioned here, you should be aware of it. So these are the subjects which fall under union list. So apart from these subjects, if any subjects appear as part of the current affairs in the newspaper, then it becomes important to what? Memorize those subjects as well. But for time being, if we memorize only these many subjects which have been specified here, it would be sufficient. Okay. So who has the exclusive power to make laws on these subjects? Only center can make laws. So states do not have the power to make laws on these subjects. Okay, these subjects. Next, in the state list, we have somewhere close to 61 subjects. So do we need to memorize all the 61 subjects? No, not necessary. Then which all subjects become important? So the subjects which have been listed here. So public order, police, public health, sanitation, agriculture, prisons, local government, fisheries, markets, theatres, gambling. So these are the subjects which are present in state list. Okay, these are the subjects which are present in state list, and we need to memorize these subjects. Okay, apart from them, again, if any subject appears in the newspaper, that subject will also become important from examination point of view. Next, normal times only state can make laws. What does it mean? It means, let us consider any subject, agriculture. Okay, agriculture is a subject. So normal time. Who can make? States can make. But there are some abnormal times. So which are those abnormal times? We will be discussing later on. So during abnormal times, even center can make laws. Okay. So how center can make laws and what will be its impact and all, we will be studying later on. But we shall understand that on state list subjects, normally state can make laws, and during abnormal times, even center can make laws. Okay, center can make laws. Next, concurrent list. So here again we have 52 subjects. We need not memorize all the 52 subjects. We shall only focus on the subjects which are present here and the subjects which appear in the current affairs as part of the newspaper. Okay, as part of the newspaper. So on concurrent list, that is list 3, both central as well as state can make laws. Okay, so what does it mean? For example, which are the subjects? Criminal law and procedure, civil procedure, marriage and divorce, very important. So in day-to-day life we witness such cases and all, marriage and divorce. So they fall under concurrent list. Population control and family planning, electricity. Okay, every day we encounter what? Electricity. So we need to understand that electricity is a subject under concurrent list. Labor welfare, economic and social planning, drugs. Okay, newspaper, very important, concurrent list. Books, printing press. So all of them, they fall under concurrent list. Now suppose if I want to make a law on electricity. So who has the power to make law on electricity? Center can also make law. Okay, and state can also make law. Okay, make law. So let us assume center makes a law. What is that? it will make a law that for 1 unit of electricity, you should charge 10 rupees. So this is a law made by center. Next, similarly, let us assume Karnataka government, it makes a law that is 1 unit of electricity should cost 15 rupees. 15 rupees should be charged 15 rupees. Now, which law should be implemented? Center's law or state's law? Because there is a what dispute. Center says rupees 10, whereas the state says rupees 15. So in this case, which one will prevail? In this case, center's law will prevail. Okay, so which will prevail? Center's law will be prevail. So an electricity per unit, it will be charged 10 rupees. Okay, it will be charged 10 rupees. Next, there are certain exceptions as well. So we shall see later on. Okay, we shall see later on. Now next, 42nd amendment, constitutional amendment, transferred 5 subjects to concurrent list from state list. Very important. So the subjects which have been listed here, initially these subjects, they were part of state list. They are present in state list. So they were transferred from state list to what? Concurrent list. That is from list 2 to list 3. Okay, list 3. So UPSC will generally focus on such kind of questions. Which of the following subjects have been transferred through 42nd amendment from state list to concurrent list? So we need to know these. So education, forest, weights and measures, protection of wild animals and birds, administration of justice, constitution and administration of all courts except Supreme Court and High Court. Okay, so these things are important. Next, residuary powers, very important. It lies with Parliament. What is residuary power? So if any subject is not specified either in union list or state list or concurrent list, then such a subject will be called as what? Subject of the residuary list. For example, when we brought our constitution, we were unaware of a concept called as cyber. Okay, cyber. So at that time, we are not included. But today, if we want to make a law on cyber security or something, so who has the power? Only center can make. That is, Parliament can make. Why Parliament? Because residuary powers, including levying residuary taxes, it lies with Parliament. Okay, Parliament. So from these discussions, we understand that our constitutional framers, they have permitted diversity along with uniformity. So what is that uniformity? For example, in some matters, we want to maintain uniformity throughout the country. For example, if I look currency as an example. So for currency, we require uniformity throughout the country. So it will come under union list. Now diversity, when it comes to what few subjects like health and all, we want to maintain out some diversity. So health is included in state subject. So that's why from the discussion we understand that few our constitution framers, so they have permitted both diversity along with what? Uniformity. Along with uniformity. Next. So US means United States of America, USA. So as our mains syllabus consists of a topic called as comparison of Indian constitutional schema with that of the others, and even questions can be framed in prelims as well. So what kind of questions can be framed? So have we adopted American system or Canadian system? So we have adopted the system which is prevailing in Canada. But what is in USA? In USA, that is also powers of federal government. Okay. So there also we have federal government, but residuary is left to states. Means whatever the residual subjects are there, on those subjects, who can make the laws? State can make the laws. But India, who can make the laws on the residuary subjects? Center can make law. So similarly in Australia, law on residuary subjects can be made by center. But when it comes to Canada, so who can make a law on residuary subjects? Center can make law. Center can make laws. Next, another very important point, Government of India Act 1935. So this is a very important act, and majority of the provisions of the constitution have been borrowed from Government of India Act 1935. So often UPSC focuses on GOI 1935. So as per this Government of India Act 1935, there are 3 lists. So as we have presently what? Central list, state list and concurrent list. Similarly, it mentioned about 3 lists. But the important change between the present provisions and the provisions in the Government of India Act 1935 is it vested the residuary powers to Governor General. Government of India Act 1935 gave the residuary powers to Governor General, but our constitution, it gives the residuary powers to center. Okay, this important difference we need to remember. Next, predominance in case of overlapping. So just understand the superficial level. Whenever there is a confusion whether a particular subject falls in union list, concurrent list, or state list. So what is the priority? Always union list enjoys the higher priority. Next is concurrent list, and last is state list. Okay, state list. Next, conflict between central law and state law on concurrent list subject. Okay, concurrent list subject. So already I took an example, right? What is that? Now I'll take concurrent list. Let us take electricity. Okay, electricity, the example which I had taken. So in electricity example, what we saw? We saw that center also makes a law and charges ₹10 for 1 unit. Next, state, Karnataka state makes a law, and for 1 unit it will start charging 15 rupees. So which one will prevail? Center's law will prevail. So this law will prevail. This law will prevail. But there is an exception. I want this law to prevail. It means in the state of Karnataka, electricity for 1 unit, it should be charged 15 rupees. If I want this to be implemented, then what the state should do? State law reserved for consideration of president has received his assent. It means when there is a dilemma, between center's law and state's laws, normally center's law will prevail. But if Karnataka takes permission of President of India, then the state's law will override. Override center's law. So what does it mean? It means now this law will start prevailing only in the state of Karnataka. Means in Karnataka, instead of 10 rupees for 1 unit, we'll start charging 15 rupees per unit. Okay, 15 rupees per unit. So this is an exception. When a state government takes the permission of the president, and if president gives the permission, then state's law will start prevailing in that particular state. Whereas in all the other states, same center's law will be prevailing. Another very important point to remember here is, so when state's law prevails in the state of Karnataka, whether parliament can pass another law, to change the act which is present in Karnataka state? Yes, parliament is empowered. So, but parliament is competent to override such law by subsequent law on the same matter. It means now Karnataka government has took the permission of the president, but parliament is not happy with it. So parliament, what it will pass one more law. It will be passed in Lok Sabha, it will be passed in Raj Sabha, and president will give the signature. In that case, what happens? Whatever the state law that was operating, so that will cease, and the new law that has been brought by the parliament will start prevailing. Okay, prevailing. So parliament is competent enough to override such law by subsequent law on the same matter. Okay, same matter. Next, parliament legislation in the state field. So already few of the examples we have seen. So just we shall revisit them. So state list. So let us take health as a subject. Okay, health as a subject. So who can make law on the health subject? State. Let us assume Karnataka state. Okay. Similarly, Maharashtra state, Tamil Nadu state. All the states can make the laws for their states with respect to health. But when can parliament make laws on the same? When Rajya Sabha passes a resolution. Rajya Sabha, RS indicates Rajya Sabha. When Rajya Sabha passes a resolution by 2/3 members. Okay, by 2/3 members. So it will pass a resolution. So when it passes a resolution, let us assume on January 1, 2023, it will pass a resolution. Okay, it will pass a resolution. So what will be the duration of that resolution? 1 year. That is, it will last till December 31, 2023. If Rajya Sabha passes a resolution on January 1, 2023, so now what happens? Parliament will become empowered. Parliament will become empowered to make law on a state subject. So in that resolution, Rajya Sabha will mention that Parliament can make a law on subject called as health, which is a state subject. So health is a state subject, but in the resolution it will mention that Parliament can make a law on health. Okay, on health. Now this resolution will remain in force for 1 year. During this 1 year, so Parliament can make laws. That is, they'll pass a bill in Lok Sabha, they'll pass a bill in Raj Sabha, and President will sign it. On which subject? On a subject called as health. Now let us assume the law which has been made by Parliament, let us call it as Law 1. Law 1 on which subject? on subject called as health. So once a law has been made, what will be its longevity? Whether it will remain forever? No, it will not remain forever. It will cease 6 months after the resolution's expiry. It means the law one which we have made, so expiry date is December 31, 2023. From this date, it will remain valid for 6 months. So after 6 months, the law one which we have made, it will become inoperative. It will become inoperative. But can we renew the resolution? Can we renew the resolution? Yes, we can renew the resolution. How many times? Any number of times. Means on December 31, if we renew the resolution, then it will continue for another 1 year. Again, at the end of the last day, again if we renew it, again it will continue for 1 more year. So we can continue any number of times. Okay, we can renew it any number of times, and whatever the law we have made, it will remain in force for what? For 6 months from the last date of the resolution. From the last date of the resolution. Next, very important thing. When Parliament is empowered to make a law on state subject, when Parliament has become capable enough to make a law on a subject called as health, can state, let us assume Karnataka state, also make a law on a health subject? This is a question. Now Parliament has become empowered to make a law on subject called as health because of Rajya Sabha's resolution. During this 1 year period, whether Karnataka state can make a law on the subject called as health? Yes. So here even state is empowered. So state is free to make law. State is free to make law. Now, if there is an inconsistency between parliamentary law and state law, which one will prevail? So now centre's law will prevail. So when the resolution is there, so this state subject will act something similar to concurrent list subject. Okay, it will act similar to concurrent list subject. So here both center as well as states can make the laws, but in case of inconsistency, which one will prevail? Centre's law will prevail. Centre's law will prevail. Next. NE indicates national emergency. So we have a separate topic called as emergency, where we will be discussing about 3 different types of emergencies: national emergency, president's rule, and financial emergency. So we will be discussing in detail about these emergencies later on. But at a superficial level, we shall understand that during national emergency also, center can make laws on the state subjects. State subjects. Okay. For example, again we shall take the example of health itself. So during emergency, during national emergency, center can make a law on subject called as health. Okay, health. So next, once we have made a law on subject called as health, how long it will remain in force? So let us assume duration of emergency is 1 month. Okay. So let us assume on January 1, emergency has started, and on January 30, emergency has ended. So for 1 month duration, there was emergency. And during this 1 month period, center has made a law on what? State subject, that is health. So that is law. So what will be its longevity of this law? So this law will remain in force for how many days? 6 months after emergency ceases. Means from January 30 to 6 months. Okay. From this point, from January 30th onwards, we will calculate 6 months. So until those 6 months, that law which we have made will remain in force. Okay, it will remain in force. Another very again important point: whether state can make laws during this period? Yes. So during this period, during emergency, if let us assume Karnataka state also makes a law on subject called as health. Okay, health. So let us assume this law is called as law 2, and this law is called as law 1. So which one will prevail among law 1 and law 2? So here centre's law will prevail. Centre's law will prevail. Very important. It means during national emergency, when center can make laws on the subjects of state list, so state is not barred from making laws. State can also make laws on the subjects of state list. But when it comes to inconsistency between the central law and the state law, which one will prevail? Centre's law will prevail. Centre's law will prevail. Important. Next. When states make a request, so let us assume Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, they'll make a request to center. So what they'll make? They say that we want a law to be made on subject called as health. So health is the state subject. So Karnataka has to make its own law, Tamil Nadu has to make its own law. But now they don't want to make their individual laws. They'll request the center, make a common law, okay, for both of us. So now when two or more states make a request, then center can make a law on this subject, on the subject called as health, on the subject called as health. Okay, very important. Now, very important point is state legislature seizes power with respect to that matter. What does it mean? When two or more states request the center can make the law on this subject health. But at the same time, whether Karnataka and Tamil Nadu make a law on subject called as health? No. So both Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, they will lose the power to make the law on subject called as health. Okay, they lose the power. In the previous two cases, what we had seen? We had seen that both center as well as states can make laws simultaneously. But in case of inconsistency, center's law will prevail. But here, once they have delegated the power to center, now these states, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, they cannot make a law on subject called as health. But at this time, can Maharashtra make a law on a subject called as health? Yes, Maharashtra can make a law on the subject called as health, because Maharashtra is not among the states which are requested the center. Okay, Now let us assume similarly Madhya Pradesh, a state, it also wants the law on health which has been made by the center. So Madhya Pradesh what it can do? It can pass a resolution and it can accept that law which has been made by the center. So once the Madhya Pradesh passes a resolution and accepts the law prepared by the center, Madhya Pradesh also loses the power to make laws on the health subject. Okay, so a very important point to note. Next, applies only to those states. Other states can adopt by passing resolution. So we saw, right? So here only it applies to Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, and we took Madhya Pradesh as an example, which also adopted by resolution. Next, when they are doing these things, they can amend or repeal. They can be amended or repealed only by Parliament. So once the law has been passed, let us assume this law is Law 1. Okay, Law 1. Now, once the law has been passed, this law can be removed or it can be amended only by Parliament or center. Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, they do not have the power to make any kind of changes with respect to this Law 1. Okay, Law 1. Next, whether such kind of laws have been passed in India? Yes. An example here is Wildlife Protection Act. Okay, Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Next, to implement international agreements. Okay, so when it comes to international agreements, we may have to make laws. Okay, we may have to make some laws. So if law is related to, let us assume, a central subject or union list subject called as currency, then do we have any problem? No. Parliament will automatically pass a law for this. But in order to adhere to international agreements, we want to make a law on a subject called as health. In order to adhere to international conventions, we want to make a law on a subject called as health. But health is a state subject. So who can make the laws? Whether Parliament has to take the permission of the state to make a law on the health? No, not required. In order to implement international agreements, so without seeking the permission of the state, you can make a law on state subject. Okay, to implement international treaties, agreements or conventions. So enable central government to fulfill its international obligations and commitments. So whether such a law has been ever made by the center? Yes. An example here is Geneva Convention of 1982. Okay. So here it consists of provisions of state subject, but still center has passed a law because we wanted to adhere to the international convention. Next, during president's rule, similarly, as we saw that during national emergency, center can make laws on state subject. Similarly, during president's rule. So what is president's rule? We'll be discussing later on. During president's rule also, center can make laws on the state subject. Okay. So let us assume from January 1 to January 30. So in the state of Karnataka, president's rule has been imposed. Okay, president's rule has been imposed. So during this 1 month period, Parliament will make a law. On which subject? On a subject called as health. Okay, health is a state subject, but Parliament has made the law on health subject during president's rule in Karnataka. Now, whatever the law, let us assume the name of this law is Law 1. So how long it will remain in force? or after what time it will become inoperative? In case of national emergency, we saw that after 6 months, that is from January 30 to 6 months, it will remain in force and then it will become inoperative. But in case of President's rule, eternally it will be alive. Okay, it will be alive. It means it will never become inoperative. During President's rule, whatever the law the center makes on the state subject, it will be eternal. It will live in force forever. Okay, forever. But very important point to note, that is, continues to operate even after emergency, can be repealed or altered by the state legislature. But later on, once the emergency ceases, after January 30, if Karnataka legislature, MLAs decide that they want to change this law, then they can change the law. If they do not change, then the same law will remain forever. But if they change, then it gets changed. It gets amended. Okay, it gets amended. Important. Next, center's control over state legislation. So sometimes center establishes and control over state. Okay, state. How governor can reserve certain types of bills passed by state legislature, and president enjoys absolute veto. What does it mean? So whenever state makes a law, for example, MLAs, or I will say Legislative Assembly of Karnataka. Karnataka's Legislative Assembly will make a law, let us assume, on subject called as some subject. Okay. You'll make law, let us assume law 1. So for this to become act, it has to receive governor's signature. Okay, governor has to sign it. But in some cases, governor will not sign it. Governor, what he will do, he will send it to president. So when it is sent to president, so president has what? Two choices. Either he can sign and accept it, or he may not sign and he may reject it. Okay, he may reject it. That is why we say president enjoys absolute veto. He can either sign it or he may reject it. So what does it indicate? It means few of the bills which have been reserved by the state of Karnataka may be accepted by the president or may not be accepted by the president. So it indicates center can exercise control over the states in few of the legislations. So this is just an example. So bills on certain matters, introduction needs president's sanction. Okay. So few of the bills now in Karnataka Legislative Assembly, in order to introduce few bills, which are those bills we will be discussing later on. So before introducing those bills for discussion, we have to take president's permission. So this also indicates that center exercises the control over the state's legislation. Example, bills imposing restrictions on freedom of trade and commerce. Whenever Karnataka government wants to bring a bill which imposes restrictions on trade between two different states, so before introducing such kind of bill, Karnataka has to seek the permission of the president. Okay, president. Next, during financial emergency. So what is financial emergency? We will be discussing later on. During financial emergency, president can direct that to reserve money bills and other financial bills for his consideration. Normally, during normal times, so state have the power to pass money bill. But during president's rule, so president can ask any of the states to what? Before introducing the bill, you have to take my permission. So he can give such kind of directions. Okay. Again, this indicates that center is exercising the control over the state's legislation. Why center? Because here when I say president, it is not president's discretion, but president has to listen as per the direction of Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister at the center. It means whatever the president is doing, it is as per the expectations of Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister. So here we got to know that the state's legislation is indirectly controlled by Central Council of Ministers in few of the cases. Next, so from this what we understand, our constitution has assigned a position of superiority to center. Okay, position of superiority to center. There are many examples. What are those examples? That in few of the cases on state list, center can make laws. So it indicates a superiority. Similarly, in few of the cases, states laws, in order to pass a state law, we require the permission of the president. So that also indicates center's supremacy. Next, in the forthcoming discussions, we will come across a commission called as Sarkaria Commission, an important commission which was appointed by the center to study center-state relations. So even Sarkaria Commission on center-state relationship, it has favored what? Federal supremacy. It means the center should be supreme as compared to the states. So even what? Sarkaria Commission has favored what? Federal supremacy. So questions might be asked in prelims as well. So Sarkaria Commission, whether it favored federal supremacy or not. So it is yes. Okay, it is yes. So in this class, we discussed about the important legislative relations between the center and the states. So similarly, in the next class, we'll be resuming with the next part of this chapter. So for all our further updates, subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon. Thank you.